Brenden Martin in Ocala, Florida, with cold coffee.
Dripping, sweaty cold coffee, which means it's hot outside.
Yeah, it'll be 95 here again today and humid, and they are cutting the rice, the beans, the corn 24 hours a day over here. I've never seen anything like it. Look, great show today. We're honored to have a great special guest, Coach Mack Brown from the Cumberland Plateau, Cookeville, Tennessee, and he began that journey. He's coached at a lot of places, and we're going to talk about those stops along the way and his thoughts on college football. What a great, this is going to be fun, folks. I heard him at the Touchdown Club in Memphis a week ago, and I'm with John David Bedour. I've heard over 400 of these speeches, never one like Coach Brown gave from the heart. Frank Duffy in Cancun, Doug Dean from Birmingham, and Brad Bellamy's going to try to check in from Athens later in the show.
That would be Athens, Greece.
That's right. I like to mess with people. It is the classic city itself. Look, take a picture with your QR code.
Take a picture of the QR. Of the QR, not with it.
That's right.
We haven't figured that one out yet.
Exactly. That's advanced. But we're live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We do it 5 days a week, and this channel's got a bunch of shows. So come in here, follow us. It's your one-stop shop. The best 60 minutes on the SEC and college
Hour of power.
Hour of power. That's right. So let's go ahead and get started and bring everybody in here. Love the studio. Coach Brown, I love it. Now you're advanced, and you were really comfortable last week at the Touchdown Club talking with Harold Grader. And Frank, I wish we had and these are times, Coach, what you said about college football meant the world. Who's in charge and a lot of things. But first off, thanks for taking time to share with us on this Friday morning. And I want to you tell us, you have won a national championship. You've played for another one. You're the winningest coach at North Carolina in their history, 11 games behind Coach Royal at Texas, and you're back in Austin. So the ball is yours.
Well, thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me on, guys. It's a crazy time with college football. Saturdays are still wonderful. I sat and watched Charlotte and Rice play last night till the end. Then I was flipping back and forth with the Bills and the Dolphins. And I love college football. I love the kids that play it and the coaches that coach it and the fans that watch it. So it's a wonderful game. We've gotten off track a little bit, in my opinion. We made some decisions that we didn't understand the consequences. So now the toothpaste is out of the tube a little bit. We got to get it all back in the tube, and that's a hard thing to do. But we've got to make sure that we take care of our great game. We take care of the kids that play it, their families, and the fans. And as long as we do that, we'll get it back.
Well, you and your brother Watson, both you're all from Cookeville. I've been there a million times up on near the Caney Fork River. I mean, between Cookeville and Knoxville, I think you cross it 10 times. But you started your career in Memphis, coaching guys like Ernest Gray. I thought the presentation in Memphis when Harold Grader and you were up there talking was really a cool walk through the history of your coaching career. And you're why we love college football. You genuinely love the people that you have coached, the people who've coached with you. And that's, as they say in the country, not nothing. That's Chuck Oliver's saying. I want to give him credit for that over in Atlanta. But I want you to just kind of take us back on where you thought you'd end up when you first started.
Well, I can understand not nothing, so that tells you where I'm from for sure.
Right.
That just sounds normal to me.
Okay.
The thing that I was raised in a small town in Cookeville, Tennessee, on a lake. So we grew up with a perfect little family. We were in bed by 10 o'clock. There were only 3 channels on TV, and Mom and Dad told us what we could watch and what we couldn't, and TV was not on when we weren't watching it.
Yeah.
We had the old community phone that you had to call Mabel, and she had to hook you up with somebody else in the neighborhood. So, and we were playing ball all day. We just had basketball and baseball and football at our high school, but we went early. We played all day. We stayed after school to play or lift weights or run, and then we came home, and usually Watson, my brother, and I, and Mel, my younger brother, we competed in basketball in the backyard and then went to sleep.
Yeah.
So that was just the life we had. We couldn't get in trouble because there wasn't any trouble to have. And a guy was a real hoodlum if he smoked a cigarette. or drank a beer. So that was a real problem. Now those guys weren't going to make it. And my granddad was the winningest coach in Middle Tennessee history. The stadium's named after him, and he was a most wonderful person in my life. And because of him, I wanted to coach.
Yeah.
So Watson and I were very highly recruited. Watson ended up turning down Alabama and Coach Bryant to go to Vanderbilt because he wanted to be a sports writer, and he loved Fred Russell at that time, and that was the dream of his life. And then I wanted to go to Alabama because of Coach Bryant, because I wanted to coach, and Mom and Dad kind of forced me to go to Vanderbilt. And then I stayed there for a couple of years, and then went to Florida State because of Steve Sloan, because I loved Steve Sloan. He was just he was a special mentor to me, and it was fun to play with him, and then he helped me with the coaching, and then I was I'll never forget, I couldn't afford a ticket to the National Coaches Convention in Washington, D.C., so I drove from Tallahassee, Florida, because I had hurt my knee and I couldn't play my senior year, so I was actually the freshman coach, and I couldn't afford a room, so I stayed on my brother Watson's floor because he was the quarterback coach for Pat Dye at East Carolina.
Yep.
And then Jim Donnan, who I had played for at Oklahoma, Jim ran into Bobby Collins, and he had a receiver job open at Southern Miss, and I didn't have I really didn't know where I was staying. I didn't know the room number. I didn't know anything. I was just staying with Watson. So Coach Collins asked Jim, get Mack to come and see me, because I just interviewed with Bobby Bowden at West Virginia the day before, and he said I was too young.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that Coach Harbison was sitting there, who was a friend of mine from the Florida State, because Coach Bowden was just going there. And Coach Bowden asked me how old I was, and I said, I'm 21. And he said, well, I need somebody 25 or older. And he got up and left. Coach Harbison said, why didn't you lie, boy? Tell him 28. He wouldn't know the difference. So I got to Coach Collins. They said he's leaving in 2 hours. You got to go. It was snowing. I ran to his hotel room, which was snowing in Washington, D.C. And Coach Collins, first thing he said is, how old are you? And I said, how old do you want me to be?
I love it.
That doesn't matter. That's not a factor. And then he said, can you coach receivers? Never played receiver, never coached receiver in my life. And I said, yes, sir. I can coach receivers. He said, you want to, you know anything about Hattiesburg, Mississippi? And I said, no, sir, but I don't need to. And he said, well, when can you come to work? And I said, tomorrow. I'll go home. How far is it? I'll drive. I'll get there. So that was my first job as a receiver coach. Then I went to Memphis State at that time for Richard Williamson after 3 years at Southern Miss, and then to Iowa State, then offensive coordinator at Iowa State, then to LSU, and then became the head coach at Appalachian State. Left there. I was making $38,500 at App State as a head coach.
Wow.
Coach Switzer called me and offered me $125,000 to be the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. So I couldn't count very well, but I knew that was better.
Yeah.
So I hopped on a plane. I went to Oklahoma, stayed there for a year, and then became the head coach at Tulane. It's really interesting. You get to Tulane, and the first thing that happens is they've got a point shaving scandal. They fire the athletics director. They drop the basketball program. They want me to be the athletics director, and then they're voting to see whether they're going to keep football or not. And if they are, what level are they going to keep it? So I was in a mess.
Yeah.
I think there were 41 guys on academic probation. It was just a mess.
Wow.
So I stayed there 3 years, and after that went to North Carolina. And North Carolina had a tough time starting, but stayed there 10 years. Then left North Carolina to go to Texas. I stayed there 16 years. Got out and got in that crazy media business. I crossed over for 5 years and loved TV, and then went back to North Carolina for 6. And now I'm enjoying life and grandkids. And I have broken that theory that if you play more golf, you get better. Because I'm not. I'm still bad. So it's I still love it, but I'm still bad.
I love it. That is and I think it's neat when you say that, because we were talking with John Brady on this show, so he said it on the show. People think coaches start out making all this money, and John said, Rob, my first 3 years in Macomb, Mississippi, $15,000 a year and what you have to go through to get. Now, I got one of your old ball boys from Tulane, Frank Duffy. Frank, jump in here in this conversation, and that's Doug Dean from Birmingham. But what a story. Every young coach in America needs to hear your story because it's very inspiring.
By the way, you just compacted what seemed like the Middle Ages into like 2 minutes. Your coaching career is so incredible. I cannot believe – I wanted to stop you 10 times and say, no, wait, we got to dive down right here. As an LSU guy, yes, I was a Tulane ball boy back in the 70s. And, yes, I actually did know one of the guys that was doing the point shaving. I played against him in basketball in high school. That's another story. But I got to go back to when you were the offensive coordinator for my LSU Tigers in 1982, and you trotted out 2 young freshman running backs by the name of Gary James and Dalton Hilliard on an 11 o'clock start in Gainesville, Florida. And all of a sudden we realized, holy mackerel, we got an offense. That offense that you ran as the offensive coordinator in 1982, if my memory is right, was an incredible offense. And to this day, I still say, yes, Herschel was great. Bo Jackson was great. Charlie Alexander was great. But there was nobody that could stop Gary James to that flag when he got that pitch in that I formation down on the 1 or 2 yard line. There was no cornerback that was going to stop him to that flag. So, Coach, as an LSU guy, I have got to hear about what you thought that was like as an offensive coordinator, having that type of talent as a young coach and being able to put them in play in SEC play. That had to be incredible.
Well, thank you, Frank. That puts a smile on my face because I go back to they were 4-7. I was the offensive coordinator at Iowa State for Donnie Duncan, and I went to Iowa State because I wanted to be a head coach, and I was dumb enough. I wanted to be a head coach. I didn't care where it was. I didn't know you had to have good players and a good job, and you had to win to stay. I just wanted to go, man. I was ready to be a head coach because I love the fact that Bill Battle and Steve Sloan were head coaches before they were 30. Yeah. So I thought that's what you had to do. Yeah. So I got to LSU. They were 4-7. Alan Risher was the quarterback, but he had a sore shoulder, so we had to handle him. And then Eric Martin was the tailback, and he was a big, tall guy, and we moved him to wide receiver, and he ended up playing in the NFL. Sure did. And then these 2 freshmen, they didn't come then till August. So we didn't know what Gary and Dalton were like, but we knew they were both really good. And I remember our offensive line was just okay. And Nebraska coaches, the whole staff had come down to visit with us in the spring, and they were fun. And of course, they were winning everything. And they go back, and Coach Osborne said, I wanted to go visit Nebraska because I wanted to see how they practice because they had so many players. And Coach Osborne said, I don't know, we might play these guys. And the coaches said, they are so bad. There is no way we will ever play them. They can't win. So I go watch Nebraska. They got 200 players. They got 6 drills going at once. And it's when they had all those walk-ons. And the fullback in the number 5 drill that was running the same plays as the other 5 guys, he was going to move up 3 places. And I'm thinking, this is crazy, man. I've never seen anything like this. Yeah. And then we end up playing Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. And Eric Ellington was off the line of scrimmage, and we have a touchdown pass, get it called back, or we win the game. We lose it 21-20. But I loved LSU. It was so much fun. The passion. It was just an unbelievable year for me, and the real reason that I probably got to keep going and got to be the head coach at North Carolina after that, and then just continued to this day. I've had a fun run.
Yeah. Well, Coach, Coach, one last quick thing before we get Doug in here. Coach, I don't know if you were whispered in Jerry Stovall's ear to let Juan Carlos Betanzos go out and kick that field goal when we're going to put that game on ice. But if you didn't, you and I are going to say that's our story, and we're sticking to it. By the way, one of my best friends in life is Lance Smith, a great tackle, All-American tackle from Kannapolis, North Carolina. Yeah. And I told him I was going to be on the show with you, and he said to tell you hello.
Lance is wonderful, and his son worked for us at North Carolina.
Yep, absolutely. He sure did. That's exactly right.
Doug, jump in here with Coach Mack Brown. This is priceless.
Gladly. First of all, Duff, looking good at your latest travels, and maybe this will be the Saturday that LSU starts playing actual offense, Southeast Louisiana, right? Coach Brown. First of all, I'm an Auburn man, but I try to be fair. There's a lot of great programs, and I've been an admirer of yours for many years from a distance. And it's not just because you're a hell of a coach and have won your share, but it's also because you're one of, I guess, I hope I'm wrong, but maybe a dying breed of gentlemen coaches who believe in the game, and it's actually okay to be friendly with rival coaches, except on game day or game week. But I know you're going to like this question because I want to take you back to January 4th, 2006. You might remember that particular date. And I was in, your way around the state of Texas too. I was privileged to be a guest at, of all places, the Kennedy Ranch down near Sarita, Texas. I have a feeling you've stomped those grounds once or twice. And so that we had all had a successful hunt. We're around camp, and naturally we had to tune in to what some believe was the greatest Rose Bowl and championship game played in the modern era. But take us inside, if you will. I'm sure you could spend 3 days talking about that unbelievable 41-30 defensive struggle, wasn't it, Coach? 41-38 game. And what stands out in preparation that week, and especially in game, what y'all specifically were able to do to beat one heck of a USC team?
Doug, let me say first that when my first game at North Carolina when I came back was at Auburn with Pat Dye. And going into the fourth quarter, and I love Coach Dye, and we were down 33-0. And Coach Dye put in guys, he didn't even know their names. And he let it go back to 33-21. And after the game, I said, Coach, that was so nice of you. Thank you, man. We're struggling. He said, you know what? You're really bad. He said, no, you're going to have a really bad year because you got bad players. And I said, thank you, Coach. But I just loved him so much. But the national championship game was really interesting. We'd beaten Michigan the year before in the Rose Bowl. And Vince Young, our quarterback, stands in the middle of the stadium after the game and says, we'll be back. In fact, he'll say, we'll be back. And I said, what are you doing? He said, national championship game's back here next year, Coach. We've got to be in it. We're second this year with Michigan. We got to win the national championship or this doesn't work. And that started that night. And then all spring we were working on USC was number 1. We were number 2. And they had a Heisman Trophy winner in Matt Leinart, and we had Vince Young. They had Reggie Bush, and one of those two was probably going to win the Heisman the next year. Yeah. But it was interesting. We go to Columbus, kind of like Texas did this year, and we win 25-22, and that was hard. It was a night game. We couldn't even hear. They were crazy at Ohio State. And I think that was probably the other team that if they had beaten us that night with a BCS, you lose, you're out. Now you lose, you win your conference, you can get back in the playoffs. So it's changed so much. So we beat them. Then we hadn't beaten Oklahoma in a while. We beat them 45-14, I think, or 45-12, something like that. So I knew then we were good. I knew we were probably going to play for the national championship. So we did something, Doug, I'd never even thought about doing before. My wife came home with a Rose Bowl T-shirt on after the Oklahoma game. I said, are you kidding me? So obviously we've quit thinking about any of these other games. So what we did is we started having our stats against the team we were going to play every Sunday. And then we would compare our stats with USC because we knew that was going to be the team that we had to beat to win the national championship.
Wow.
Harvey Pinnick had taken a slogan, take dead aim. And we took it from him, and we were taking dead aim at USC. Nothing else. And you're not supposed to do that. Don't look ahead. Well, we did. We did.
Broke all the rules on that, Coach.
We thought that was the only way it was going to work, is that let's be honest with the guys. It is what it is. But you beat Oklahoma State, but you didn't beat USC today. You didn't win the national championship. So we had 4 turnovers. They had 2. They outrushed us. And that was what we did that entire year. And then it was really interesting. We were undefeated. We'd beaten Kansas, I think, 66-14. We're getting ready to play a 4-7 Texas A&M team at A&M. And I played for Bill Parcells at Florida State. Coach Parcells was the head coach of the Cowboys. He calls me and said, "Man, are you in trouble?" And I said, "Coach, we're undefeated, man. We just beat Kansas." He said, "That's what I mean. You haven't even thought about A&M, and this is their national championship game. That you're not going to see the A&M team that everybody else has seen, man. You better you are." And that's where the fat rat eating the cheese came in. He said, "You're like a fat rat eating cheese, poison cheese." And he said, "You're about to get beat." And he said, "I hate it, but it's just you've gotten so full of yourself." So I got scared. I ran downstairs. I got the equipment manager. I said, "Let's hang cheese from every locker. Let's put his quote up there about the fat rat." And we did. And at halftime against A&M, we're down 29-24. And I walked into the locker room. I told the players, I said, "Well, Coach Parcells was right. We didn't eat enough cheese to die, the poison cheese to die, but we ate enough to be sick. So we've stunk. Let's go out. We're going to win the game." Well, we won the game 40-29, but that's the day that Vince Young lost the Heisman Trophy because Reggie Bush went off against Fresno, and the voting was right after that. So that really, really hurt us. So then after Vince loses the Heisman to Reggie, Vince calls the team that's in our team room at home from New York and said, "Okay, boys, game on." So I knew that was a good sign. And then we had great practices, and we got right down to the game, and everybody's uptight. And it's really interesting, Doug. You're playing for a national championship. You hadn't won one in 35 years at Texas. What do you tell your team? What do you tell your staff? They're all uptight. Man, this is really important. I mean, you don't get another shot at this. So I was trying to figure out what to say, and we moved them from the hotel because it was crazy and there was too many fans, and we couldn't get up and down the elevators. We couldn't get up and down the steps. People wanting pictures and autographs, so we moved to Burbank. We were in a hotel that was secluded. Nobody knew where we were. I didn't know where we were. And so the pregame talk, I'm sitting there looking at the guys, and I'm saying, "Thank you, man. This is really cool. I really appreciate you getting us here. This is fun. Not many people get to experience this. And you're one of the two best teams in the country." And I said, "How many of you have ever watched the show Jerry Springer?" And every one of them threw their hands up. And I said, "Well, let me help you with something. I'm going to help you win this game tonight, but I'm also going to help you for the rest of your life. If your wife or your girlfriend ever asks you to go on Jerry Springer, man, don't go. Don't go, because it ain't good, brother. It's a problem." Well, they all started dying laughing, and I said, "That's right. We didn't come here to get uptight. We came here to have fun. We came here to be us. We're good enough to win the game being us. We don't have to be anybody else. So let's just go have fun and play." And then, of course, they relaxed and played in one of the best games ever.
Yeah. And Coach Chizik helped a little. I don't think he wants to get awards for giving up 38 points, but you get stops when they really matter, right, Coach?
Well, it does, Doug. And I'm standing there before the game. I'm talking to Coach Chizik, and I'm talking to Greg Davis, our offensive coordinator. And I sat there, and I'm looking at their team, and 98 players, I think, in that game played in the NFL. I mean, it's unbelievable talent. Wow. And I'm looking at them, and I just talked to Pete Carroll, and he walks down, and I said, "Good Lord, they got a good-looking team." And Gene and Greg Davis looked at me and said, "Well, turn around, Coach. You got a good-looking team, too."
Now, that's the coaching fraternity. Yeah, who knew, Coach, and Rob and Brenden, who knew that Coach Saban borrowed the rat poison story from one Mack Brown?
Yeah.
And it's if for any viewers aspiring up and coming would-be coaches or existing coaches, that kind of stuff, what Parcells did, what you did, Coach, you knew that what your team needed in the most difficult, high-pressure moment was actually to relax and not care so much about the result and just go be themselves.
Yeah, Doug, I worry about young coaches because they have to scream and cuss and shout and make everybody think they're tough and make everybody think they got this thing. And I was always considered a player's coach, and if people didn't like me, they said I was too soft and too easy on players, and we weren't. We're really, really hard on them and disciplined. But there's that special thing that you've got to tell them at the time. And we always said, when they're down, pick them up, man. Pick them up. Yeah. When we were in trouble on the sideline, I was always clapping and screaming, and everybody saying, "What's wrong with that idiot? He doesn't realize we're behind." And then when you're way ahead, sometimes you got to put your thumb on them. and really get after them. But when they're uptight, you got to loosen them up.
Yeah.
And
Coach,
that's
that
really
punctuating that great die story when you brought your team that you were building. Die was not building. I think maybe that was 1988. And that was one hell of an Auburn football team that if Duffy were still on, he'd talk about the earthquake game in Baton Rouge that cost Auburn a shot at Notre Dame. Ooh. But I think at the very end of that, Coach Dye also said to you, I wanted to pick your team up a little bit and give them some hope the rest of the season. Golly, that's the coaching fraternity. You just wouldn't see that much these days, would you?
No, Doug, and that's tougher. I asked Coach one time. I had him when I became the head coach at Tulane. I asked him to come and speak at our clinic. He was just being so nice. He didn't want to come speak at our clinic. I don't even think I paid him. And when he got there, I said, Coach, what would you tell me as a young head coach? And he said, oh, don't play potential, because that means he ain't done it yet. Probably ain't going to do it. He said, you got to win the game, but that point spread's important too, because them old boys betting on that game in the South. They figure you better help them too. And he said, and you need to have some fun. There's not enough fun in this game right now. And I thought those were three of the best words of advice that I'd ever gotten.
Coach, I remember as a student in college writing for the Auburn Plainsman and doing stuff at Weagle. Auburn was playing Vanderbilt, and Watson Brown, your brother, was the coach, I think in 1986 at Vanderbilt. He loved your brother. I'm telling you, the genuine coaching fraternity. And Joe Biddle from the Nashville Tennessean was on there. And, David Housel would have us over there, in line, and Buddy Davidson and Reba Gully. But it's the respect. Doug, you hit on it, and Frank will be back in. I know he's in Cancun, and no hurricanes, thank goodness. But just that's what it was, is those coaches cared about one another, and they cared about the game. You talked in your speech at the Touchdown Club in Memphis last week with Harold Grader, which was just off the charts. Genuine love of the game. And we cannot lose you as a voice, a face, but the substance that you bring from up on the plateau. I mean, I love that part of Tennessee. I'm a Tennessean, man. But you make people proud of the game and the relationships you have with your players. Kind of talk about where you think we are in college football now and where we're going and what kind of leadership team we need forward.
Well, Rob, thank you. You and Doug both for those comments. And the game is really important to me. And I never got into fights with the opposing coach. I thought he's doing the same thing I'm doing.
Yeah. He's
trying to help kids. He's playing football. Why in the heck would I say he's an idiot? And he's good. So everybody wants you to say, I hate A&M. I hate them. Well, R.C. Slocum's one of my best friends.
Yeah.
So, and I had trouble eating lunch with him when I was out. The Aggies got mad at him for eating with me. So it was just crazy stuff. And right now I'm worried that the structure of the game is such that our coaches aren't happy. They're making more money than ever before, but they've got awful schedules. It's hard to protect your team with tampering and the NIL thing's crazy. We're losing competitive balance because the 12 or 15 that are going to pay all the money are going to have the best players. And they're going to be in the playoffs every year until we change something. And we've always given everybody a chance, and we don't. The group of 5 teams, they're basically feeder systems. Now, the Power 4 conference teams are sitting and looking at their teams, and I thought if somebody plays good last night in Charlotte and Rice, or somebody said, ooh, we need to get on him. So you won't have a guy play good, but not so good you lose him. So you got to take him out in the third quarter and hope they don't see him. So I think what we've got to do is we're not talking about graduation rates anymore. We're talking about APR. With all the transfers, if you transfer once, you've got a 63% chance to graduate. If you transfer twice, probably not. 3-4 times, you're not going to graduate. There's going to be mental health issues because guys are going to make more money in NIL up front than they are at the end because they can't find a job. So they're going to be homeless and depressed, and I'm concerned about that. What happens? Do we put those that have money in a league, and everybody else has to try to figure out who you are and what you are at your level? And right now we're going to separate group of 5 and Power 4 so much that I think we need to have a group of 5 national championship, just like we do FCS. I think we should have those teams. Boise playing Memphis for a national championship. We're going to watch. Yeah. We're going to have a playoff. Let's just do it, because those teams are not going to be able to compete with a team spending $35 million.
Yeah.
They're just not going to. It's just ridiculous, and it's not fair. So if I'm a group of 5 coach, I want to have a chance, or a player, I want to have a chance to win the Heisman. I want to have a chance to win the Butkus Award, whatever we call it. I want to have a chance to win the national championship. So let me play likes. Let me play against people that I can compete against and do that. And I think, Rob, we've got to get all the parties that matter. And right now, you're talking about Congress, which we've never talked about much. You're talking about NCAA. You're talking about commissioners. You're talking about presidents. You're talking about ADs, the top presidents, the top ADs. I would have some coaches involved, because you got to have some common sense. We're making decisions without common sense, because a lot of the people making the decisions don't live in the practical world with those kids every day, and they don't understand that part of the game. They're smart, but the common sense piece, we're missing some. And then I would get everybody in the room and say, okay, if it's collective bargaining, the NFL has got a really good system. For the first time in my life, the NFL has a better system than college. So let's look at what they've done for their 35 to 50 years and take every piece. They don't get sued. They don't have Congress determining you can't do that. So why? Collective bargaining? What? Player agents? Right now we need to vet agents. Some of these poor kids are giving so much of their money to agents that are just, they're not even credible. So we got to vet the agents.
Yeah.
We've got to get their percentage from those kids back to where it's fair and decent. We need to get salary caps. So there's a critical time, Rob, in my mind right now, where we need to take this very seriously and look at what's best for the kids, look what's best for the parents, what's best for the fans, what's best for the coaches, what's best for the game. Yeah. And everybody may need to give a little bit. Right now, if I'm one of those halves and I can spend $40 million on NIL, I don't know that I want it to change. I can buy players. So I'm going to tell my congressman, we're good, man. We're good. I remember when I was the president of the AFCA and I was the head coach at Texas, I had to sit there and say, what's best for Texas may not be best for all these other schools. So do I vote as the president for Texas and me, or do I vote for what's best for college football? And right now we got to get people that vote for what's best for college football and the whole and the game.
That's right.
Coach, there's 2 games on tonight. I'm going to sit and watch every play. Mm-hmm. I'll have multi-screens on if I can. And I don't have a dog in either fight, but I'm going to sit and watch every play, because I love to watch kids compete. And I love to watch coaches coach and see who's making a difference in the game.
Yeah, and Frank Duffy hopefully will be back in with the season Cancun. But
Frank's on the beach.
But I know okay, Frank, jump back in if you got a question. But I want to say too, maybe the worst line in a movie years ago, Gordon Gekko, Michael Douglas, Wall Street. You need a friend, get a dog. These tough guys talk all this talk. You know what? At the end of the day, you're all going to stand tall before the man. He's going to say, "What'd you do in your life to help other people?" And I think, Coach, what you just said, every young coach, student athlete in America needs to take as a gospel. I mean, you don't preach to people; you are telling from your real life experiences, and I think that is invaluable. So, Frank, jump back in, and I know you've got questions. I can't see you, but in the meantime, Doug,
I think Brenden had a question. Go ahead, Brenden.
This is great.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Rob, we don't see, if you're not seeing anything, let me know on your screen. Doug's not in, Doug's in and I'm in, and Frank is still not in.
Frank may be on the beach. He might have
Frank's done,
out just
Rob,
so you couldn't.
I don't know. Did you know he's in Cancun, Rob? Because I think he's done. Coach, I was talking to Urban Meyer. We have him on this network about every other week. My father's buddy Martin's a sports writer for many years. And, I've worked in the industry now for 40 years from broadcasting perspective. So, I've seen my own lens from the media perspective, talking to Urban about coaching 2 days ago. and coaching in today's world and recruiting, and how he talks to current coaches now. And he says, we don't have to go into living rooms anymore. He said, he goes, how many times I wanted to not go into the third living room, and I had a King Air outside, and I had a helicopter, and I had things to take me home, and I still didn't want to go do it, but we had to go do it. He said, but that was the part of the connection to the players that they would have when they came in. They knew mom and dad, they knew the living room. He says, now it's just how much, this whole part of this is sort of gutted. And then we had the conversation extended further. I said, well, what happens when enrollment starts dropping? What happens when students aren't there anymore? What happens when we stop emphasizing academia and creating better human beings? Is this one part, say football, say athletics, a part of a bigger conversation?
Yeah, Brenden, for sure. It's become transactional instead of relationship built. I was sitting there last year, and it was so interesting. Two quick things that happened is a player would come in with his parents on Friday, and we'd recruit the heck out of them for 2 days, show them the academics, and talk about life after and all that kind of stuff, and what a North Carolina degree meant. And then on Sunday, they'd say, well, we're ready to commit. There's just one other thing, and it's kind of awkward, and we hate to ask, but how much are you going to pay us? So I started telling our coaches, why don't we ask them how much it's going to take on Friday? And then we not even waste Saturday and Sunday talking about academics, because it's going to come down to what we pay them anyway. And what Sally and I always did, we worked on relationships, the fit. And that really doesn't matter in the recruiting anymore. It matters who you take, because it's still got to fit your program. But basically, you're going to be buying players, and it's going to come down to their value. And then somebody says, well, what's his value? None of them are worth what we're paying them, but the value is what they're worth to you. And that's the crazy thing about this whole thing. Coach Royal, I loved, and he had 3 national championships at Texas. And he had dementia, and I brought him out to a game, and he was the honorary coach, and he flipped the coin. It was really cool, and he's walking off the field, and I said, Coach, that's so cool for you to be here. And he said, Coach, where am I? Because he really didn't know where he was. And I said, Coach, you're in your stadium. It's DKR, and I loved him. I loved him like an older brother. He said, who's playing? I said, Coach, it's Texas and Wyoming. Coach, which is which? I said, well, Coach, the ones in orange that you really started, this burnt orange jersey, that's Texas. So he went into a home right after that. I went to see him about every 2 days, and Sally and I would be in there with him, and he didn't know how many games he'd won. He didn't know he won 3 national championships. He didn't know the stadium was named after him, but every ex-player or ex-coach of his that walked in that room, he knew their name. And that told me right there, we can't lose the relationship and the value of relationships. This is the 20th year of the national championship team. Those guys are so close. They all know each other. They all lean on each other, and we're losing that. When you get 70 new players coming in at Colorado, or North Carolina's got 70 new players, you get 70 new players, these guys aren't going to know each other. They're not going to be in each other's wedding. They're not going to be best friends. So we've really changed, Brenden, the whole direction of where we're going, and we've got to get some of that back. And then last year we were #1 in APR in the ACC, and we were tied nationally with Northwestern for #3. People didn't really care. You're right. We've lost that part of the value. It is how much do we have to pay the coach? What's his buyout? How many players can we buy, and what level do we have to buy them, and do we keep them? What kind of contracts do we give them? And do you sign high school players anymore? Or if you're in some trouble, do you get an older one that's already proven instead of risking on a high school player? Do you pay a high school freshman that's coming in because he may not play for 2 more years? Do you develop him anymore, or you just get rid of him and get you another one? So it's the whole game right now is it's put tremendous pressure on coaches, and everybody says, well, coaches are they're making more money than they ever have before. I said they are, and they're miserable. And like I said, you go to the grave with your relationships, not your trophies, not your money. It's your family and your relationships, and that's what you got.
Frank?
Well, first of all, Coach, I've been here in the green room. I think it was a tariff-related issue of why I could not get back on with the internet. So I'm going to have to take that up with the Mexican government shortly. But it's interesting that you've been talking about relationships, because that was going to be my main question for you today. You have obviously had some very high-profile moves from one, coaching program to another. You went from Tulane to North Carolina, which broke the heart of many of my friends in New Orleans. Then, of course, from North Carolina to Texas. Speak to how difficult that is for a coach and his coaching staff that have built these relationships with a university or with a community when you do leave. It's got to be incredibly difficult. And there's not a person out there in business or that's an employee that doesn't want to make a better move for them and their family. And that's totally understandable. But how difficult or how sensitive is that, Coach, when you make that move, when you don't want to hurt the people that you're leaving from, but you do have to go to that next place because it's the best decision?
Frank, it's a great question. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's absolutely awful, because you buy in and you're loyal, and you tell these kids to come. And North Carolina at that time was a better situation for me than Tulane, and I was trying to do it right. And I told the team and the administration before our bowl game, our Independence Bowl, and we just finally gone to a bowl after 10 years again, and everybody got mad at me. Yeah. I mean, I guess I should have lied and not said anything, waited till after the game, then slipped out the next day. But I was trying to do it right. Yeah. There's no way to leave right. I don't think. You just be honest and you just tell the truth. And then when I left North Carolina for Texas, it was a 7-year contract. I had one left or two on my contract. It was about 5 times as much money. And everybody got mad at me and said I was a traitor and I was disloyal and how awful of me to do that and leave. So it's very, very difficult for coaches. And I thought the other day, we've already had 2 major coaches fired. Now agents are talking to the current coaches that have their own team. And these poor souls, after 3 weeks, are having to answer, well, I'm happy where I am. And if they lose 4 games and their fan base wants them fired, they may want that job at the end of the year, because it's just different. And the problem you've got, if your job is not as good as the one you take, if you stay, they're going to fire you. So they're getting mad at you for leaving, but they're going to get mad at you for losing.
It's a lose-lose.
I love what I see and know of John Summerall at Tulane. Other day, the quarterback from Duke came back to him, and let's say he made $4 million a year. What he made a lot of money, whatever it is. And John was asked, do you begrudge your quarterback for leaving and going to Duke? And are you mad at him? And he said, no.
He said, no.
He said, I've left jobs for money too. So that's what we've got. And we're starting to treat players like coaches. We're going to have contracts. There's going to be buyouts. There's just different things that happen. So one of the hardest things to do for you, your family, is to leave a program that you care about and you love so much. And then just everybody gets mad at you, but nobody understands. If they were in your shoes, they'd be doing the same thing.
They would do the same thing. You're exactly
right. They do the same thing.
Yeah. Coach, before we go to Doug, I know Doug's got a question. I want to say, Doug, you know what Hugh Freeze did, and I don't know if you saw his social media in the locker room before Auburn's game last week, and he was very emotional, and he said I can promise you, somewhere out there in that stadium, Jordan-Hare tonight, there's a family that drove from I don't know where, and they're paying and they're sacrificing all year, and they're sitting up in the upper deck in the oxygen, and they can't see you, barely see you. You go out there and you owe them something. And I remember the guys I know, my friends that played when I was at Auburn, I see those guys coming back, and they're my age. Some of them are on canes because of the beating that they took. And you know what it's like. I mean, I remember the trainer at Auburn told me one time, he goes, I've been here, Rob, 24 years, and there's one player who's come through that has not gone under the knife of either Dr. Houston or Dr. Andrews, the kindly Dr. James Andrews, who we like to bring on the show. But wow, Doug. Next question. By the way, Brenden, that question that you brought up that Urban Meyer said was awesome as well. So, Doug,
Coach, I want to
in.
bring you into the here and now because I'm not the least bit surprised that your eyes are glued to just about every game, consequential or not. You love football, and we love that about you. I won't ask you to go on record, Coach, because you're too classy, I bet, to do it. But I suspect you won't mind my pick in the Auburn-Oklahoma game, which is the marquee matchup, arguably, tomorrow. I suspect you won't mind it. I think Auburn is going to, at least the OU fans I'm listening to out in the Twitter sphere, it's hard to find anyone that thinks Auburn can stay close in this game, and I just don't see it that way. But my question to you is which is going to happen more and more, these talented quarterbacks that either – with a push or voluntarily leave their school to play somewhere else. In the curious case of Jackson Arnold, who's got all the talent, there's a reason he was a 5-star coming out of high school, and you see flashes of it in the Baylor game. Auburn was able to win on the road, which is underrated win, if you ask me. So my question is, how do you manage – you get to be Auburn head coach for a minute, or OC. How do you manage a quarterback's emotions? Are you going to take all the training wheels off playing against a fierce Oklahoma defense from the looks of it? How do you manage his emotions and specifically strategy going up against Oklahoma on the road?
Yeah, Doug, another great question. And by the way, Dr. Andrews and Dr. Houston operated on my knee when I was at Florida State. I stayed at Dr. Andrews' house, and he was the coolest guy. So next time they're on, and I can still walk. So
does he make some good scrambled eggs, Coach?
I had some good scrambled eggs and some stories. But you be sure to tell him I said hello next time he's on. What I would do, Doug, is that there's going to be so much pressure on Jackson Arnold. I mean, going back to the place, you can be mad. Sally and I kind of have a little statement that when you're angry at somebody, success is the best revenge. Don't be mad. Just go get better. And the other part of that is let's get better, not bitter. So if he can go back in there and relax with a smile on his face and embrace Oklahoma, and I would let him have some success early. Usually I wanted a Vince Young or a Colt McCoy to run some early in these games to get loose and get hit so they wouldn't be uptight, but we're going to throw screens and quicks and flares, and we're going to throw deep because that's not dangerous. Don't throw it over the middle early. Don't have him hold it with a tip ball.
A deep vertical is a punt sometimes, right?
It is. And then don't get him where he can hold the ball and get sacks, because that energizes the stands and the defense and everybody. So, but let him play. And I've been so impressed with Mateer. I haven't seen Jackson that much. I saw a little bit of the Baylor game, but Arbuckle, the offensive coordinator coming in from Washington State with Mateer, they've looked really good.
Mateer's, I don't object to Mateer being called the best at the moment.
Yeah, he's really good. So that's one of the games I'll really focus on this weekend because of the emotion that you're talking about. I love the emotion. I love the pregame talk, the halftime talk, the build up, what advantages can you get mentally, and how does Hugh get his bunch to be confident but relax?
You talk about the stress of, sorry if I walked on you, Coach, the stress that goes to coaches too. Brent Venables needs to have a big year. He looks like he's on his way to it, but not Jackson Arnold and arguably the Auburn defensive front have the opportunity to make Brent Venables look pretty stupid, letting Jackson Arnold leave and go to Auburn, depending on how the game goes.
Yes. And what I've said, somebody said, who's on the hot seat? I said, the ones that lost. Everybody wants them fired.
Yeah.
So everybody's on the hot seat now. So if Hugh loses, they'll all be mad at him. If Brent loses, they'll all be mad at him. And we've said 50% of them going to lose. So 50% of the fan bases are going to want their coach fired.
So it's the nature of the beast, isn't it, Coach?
That's just it.
It's a nice transition to ask you about Florida, Coach. What do you think is going on down there with Billy Napier? What do you see happening? And as a side question, how do you motivate a DJ Lagway? How do you keep TJ Lagway in this situation, considering what's college football, transfer portal, NIL, which I like to call match and gasoline. What do you do, Coach?
Well, number one, I'm a Billy Napier fan. I think he is one heck of a football coach, and he's from Cookeville, Tennessee. So that may be, I am partial to him, obviously. And they did an amazing job last year of hanging in there and turning it and winning games at the end. So I'm not giving up. The thing that we've done now is we used to have an easy game to open up with, then a hard game, and then a couple of easy ones, and then get into your conference schedule. And now Clemson loses to LSU, and everybody's mad at Clemson. Notre Dame loses to Miami, and everybody's mad at Notre Dame. If they'd both played really easy teams, they'd be in the top 10, and everybody'd be pumped about their season and can't wait. And Florida loses to South Florida, which you can't do. And then they lose to LSU, and the quarterback's got pressure. The other thing I'm seeing is that quarterbacks at Clemson and LSU and Florida and Texas have struggled some early in the year. This hype now is really putting pressure. NIL's putting pressure on these kids.
Yep.
And it's making it really, really difficult. So everybody's got to help them get relaxed. Go play. It gets that we're treating them like professional football players, and they're 20 years old.
Yeah.
So they're
Coach,
not professional football players.
Coach, you're going to love this question since you played there. I only sparingly read the book of Revelations because it's scary. But when I hear my good Bama friends, and Auburn is no different, say we dread playing Vanderbilt this year, I say the apocalypse must be near, Coach. What in the hell is going on at Vanderbilt? It's got to be more than, and you got to give the head coach a lot of credit, but you also have Diego Pavia is a force of nature. What are you seeing with this Vanderbilt team who just put Shane Beamer on the hot seat?
Yes, it's funny. We have a podcast with Vince Young called The Stampede, and the other day they were talking about Vanderbilt, and I just broke into dynamite, when Vandy starts to fight, up the field with blood to yield. When Vandy starts to fight.
Go.
Because we've never been able to sing that before. You only sung it when you scored. It wasn't something everybody knew like Rocky Top for sure. Yeah. You got to have a quarterback. Clark's a great defensive coach. We played against him at North Carolina when he was at Notre Dame as a defensive coordinator, and he was with Mike Elko. I think they've gotten a good commitment from NIL money, and they've spent it right. He brought in Jerry Kill.
Kill is dead.
To help him, and Jerry's he gets it. He knows it. But the quarterback's confident. They can run the ball. They can take the air out of the ball, and you look around and you're letting them hang in there in the fourth quarter, and then the pressure's on you because you can't have Vanderbilt beat you. What they did to Virginia Tech in the second half was unbelievable.
Wow.
Outscored them 38-0, and maybe 391 yards to 19 or something.
Yeah, that was no fluke.
No,
that was no fluke.
Like 7 possessions when you play Vandy.
Yeah, no, it's nearly like the old academies where you look up. I remember when I was at Texas and Ken Hatfield was at Rice. You had to be careful because he was going to go for 4th and 1 at the -20. Because if he could keep the ball, that was his game, and those stats were critical at the end. So I think that's what Vanderbilt's doing, and they've got so much confidence now that they're a team that you've got to watch for sure.
Coach Brown, being a Tennessee native, my friend Norman Jetmanson down in Birmingham about 3 years ago wrote a book, Unrivaled, about Sewanee, 1899. You've been up on the mountain. You've been to Mont Eagle. That's a cool story, along with having you come address a team about the love of the game and the value of relationships. I think that watching the video, it's a 90-minute, it's on public TV, it's on Delta Airlines on the flights now. That people ought to watch that to see the sacrifices. And by the way, Clark Lee is related to one of the coaches on this team, and it's a great story. Coach, there's so many great questions and points that you've made, and I agree with this one. Super Chat 5. With you being from Cookeville, Tennessee, and coaching at Texas, which is the real UT, and do you wish that Tennessee and Texas did a home and home? I love that one. That is TriStar.
The oranges clash, so that's a problem. They don't look good together. So it definitely would have to be white with some orange trim with one of the other. I remember, I think Texas and Tennessee played in the Cotton Bowl, and it was a great game many years ago when Coach Roy was coaching. It's going to Vanderbilt and coaching at Texas. You have to think that for me, I live in Austin.
Yeah.
So if I didn't say the real UT was in Austin, I would get poisoned.
That's right. Well, and another friend of mine, Dave Cody, is watching right now, a longtime sports anchor. I first met Dave back in college. He was at Channel 13 in Memphis. And, man, he is a fan of yours. And I think Philip Marshall wrote a great article when Gene Chizik was at Texas those 2 years about what it was like being Mack Brown. Kind of tell us all, how cool is it? There's a cool factor being the head football coach at the University of Texas. And by the way, have you ever had your picture taken in front of Tex at the 70-foot Longhorn at the State Fair? Howdy, folks. Come on in here. But it lasts 6 months. You got to love it.
Yeah, Rob, I haven't done that, and I probably should, but I don't know how they take it. He's so tall, they'd have to feel on your feet, I guess, and look up. When I was at the fairgrounds getting ready to play OU, I wasn't thinking about a picture with Big Tex. That was
I got you.
That was one of the other things that probably later, but Coach Royal probably put it best, and I just loved him. He took complicated things and made it simple.
Yeah,
which I love.
Oh.
And Coach Royal said one time, son, don't ever walk by any fan, young or old, without stopping and signing something for them if they ask you or taking a picture. Because what a gift that your job allows you to put a smile on somebody's face for such little effort. And then he said, and remember when you're doing it, it's only because of your job. Because as soon as you leave, the next guy's going to be doing the same thing. Yeah. And I really thought about that, and that is so true. So I would never walk by anybody without stopping. It gets to be a problem sometimes because you got schedules you got to meet and all this, and but you want to put a smile on people's face, and whether it's an elderly person that just wants that picture for, and it's not you. Again, it's the position that you hold, and as long as you understand that. I've seen a lot of coaches change when they made a lot of money and won games, and I really don't like it. And one thing that I'm really, really proud of, I think I'm probably got more wisdom and probably say fewer stupid things and don't get mad as much and can handle pressure better. But I never got the big head. I never thought that I was better than somebody else just simply because I got a coaching job. Yeah. And when you think about it, very few people ever get to coach college football. Yeah. The ones that do don't have very good jobs because there's only probably 10 or 15 jobs that are any good anyway. And then the ones that do don't get to keep them very long because you get fired real fast. And then all of a sudden you look up, and I was a head coach for 36 years. My life has been so blessed. And the fans, the boosters, the administrators, the players, the parents that I've met, it's just incredible how fortunate I've been.
And, Coach, what you've done for these young men over those 36 years that have come into your program and what they've now become as fathers and grandfathers and what they've been able to do, that, I think, is the true coaching legacy of college football. You've taken men that have come to you at a very impressionable age, and what you've been able to do to have them grow in their faith or in their life as a citizen. I think that's y'all's true legacy as coaches.
Thank you, Frank. And I agree completely. It stuck in my mind that Billy Graham said that a coach will change more lives in 1 year than the average person will change in a lifetime. Yeah. And you've got to be really, really careful as a coach, because when you say something to a young person, he's going to listen. At 74 years old, I got players that played for me that are, they're 50 years old. Sure. 53. Yeah. I used to say it's a 40-year decision, not 40. Now I got to say it's a 50-year decision. I'm outliving it, and they are too. But they'll come up and say, remember when you said this to me when I was a sophomore?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when you yelled at me because I was smoking dope? Coach, I was in trouble, man. You helped me. Remember when you went to my dad's funeral and picked me up because I was down so far?
Wow.
Those are things that you remember as a coach, and that's what your legacy will be.
Yeah.
Coach, I love what Darryl Royal said about never pass a fan without greeting them, signing something, because we've all heard the saying, never meet your heroes, right? You might be disappointed if they're not nice and cordial like that. I wanted to say that what coaches are being paid now, Coach Brown, my offer stands to coach Clemson for 1 year and get a Jimmy Sexton buyout. The Jimmy Sexton buyout opportunity is there. I've never coached a game in my life, but if they're thinking about running Dabo off, then they probably deserve what they get, and they're not alone. But Coach, I just wanted to say, I know I speak for everyone viewing it, including this august body this morning. We need more Mack Browns in college football coaching. You're a class act coach.
Well, thank you, guys. It's very much, Doug. One thing I did, I never had an agent because I didn't think I could have an agent and the players have the same agent. It was conflict of interest. And then, so therefore, I never had buyouts. So I wasn't smart enough. And Sally and I did say we never wanted to get paid for losing.
Yeah.
You want to get paid for winning. And that just made sense to me. Now, it wasn't near as smart as these guys that get a $50 million buyout because they're on the beach with Frank.
Yeah.
Hey, I saw Coach Ogeron ordering Bloody Marys.
There you go.
2 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well,
Point being made.
we had Urban Meyer the other day, not to keep bringing that up, but we talked about a lot of these similar things, and he said, "Look, these paydays for coaches are gone because we got to pay players now." He says the $54 million contracts are gone.
Yeah.
He said because they can't afford it. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to start knocking these coaching staffs down. We're going to see a leaner staff, rely more on technology, AI. These kinds of things are going to matter.
I think you're going to find out who really loves the game, Coach. And again, I know we thank you for staying. Thank you more than you know for sharing your time with us. That's a big deal, and that is the most important thing. I listen to those 28-minute. They're all over YouTube. Billy Graham sermons. I went up there one time to the Cove and to the gate and looked in there and drove on. We were going up to the YMCA deal up there at Mount Mitchell, Black Mountain. But you think about what he said. He didn't preach to people. He just read from the good book. And Coach, man, how do people follow you and listen to your podcast? Because again, I will go back and watch this. I watch it like a coach doing tape. Where can I do better? I have the best executive producer, the best team. We have the best viewers. We're blessed. But to have you on here, we got to do it again. But this is what we love about the game. And I think you restored the faith in a lot of people that are watching. But I want people to know how to watch you and how we can help you grow your brand, because you're certainly helping us. And any retweet or anything you do, we're most grateful.
Well, thank you, Rob. Number one, fans, don't give up. Let's college football needs you more than ever before, because we all need to hang in there. These kids are great. People get mad at me when I say these kids didn't ask for money. They really didn't. And if somebody going to give me money, I'm going to take it. But they're still going to play the same. We had a receiver drop some balls at North Carolina, and one of my friends who'd been drinking a little bit after the game, we lost. He came up and said, "How much did you pay that idiot for dropping balls?" I said, "Not very much."
Yeah.
So let's be smart. So let's keep understanding these are kids. They do have families. I thought as a coach, I always ask our coaches to treat the players like they would want their son or daughter to be treated. As fans, if we can do that and think about, if that's my son, how would I be talking about him during a game? We'll look at it differently and try to enjoy it. And I appreciate you bringing it up, Rob. We're on the Stampede UT with Vince Young and Bob Ballou. And you can find it on all your podcast outlets, YouTube, Spotify, all the things you can find it on. You can find it. And we do this. We talk about life. We talk about stories. We talk about what's right about college football. We talk about what needs to change. And it's really interesting just to look at the Lagways and the Kublicks and the Arch Mannings and Nessmeyer and the problems that some of these so highly recruited or highly talked about guys have got so much pressure on them. They got to relax and they got to play. So it's a different world out there right now, but we as fans need to embrace these kids It's funny. Mike Norvell, we pay millions of dollars at Florida State to stay. Then last year we want him fired, but we got too much buyout. Now we're glad we got the buyout because he gets to stay. So don't give up on your coach at halftime. I used to read the emails at halftime. They wanted me fired. We'd have a great comeback, and they'd say, "Oh, sorry about that. I was just kidding. I was mad. We're good, man. We're good. I'm for you."
So the buyout,
yeah.
The purpose of the buyout is actually to protect the school from its own stupidity.
Yeah,
it really is.
Let's
call it emotional instability.
There you go.
Let's just call it that.
And I'm with you, Coach. Tough times don't last forever, but tough people do, and relationships are everything. And look, we'll let everybody go. We're going to say something about our sponsors, but Coach, what a blessing. And I'll be tuning into your podcast regularly now. I'm going to put that in my list of must watches, but thank you.
Go ahead and click the QR code there, folks. It'll take you to this YouTube podcast channel. You guys can check it out right there. The Stampede Podcasts will be on the chat. There's a link, and then hit the QR if you want to check out his podcast. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you, Coach. And thank you, Frank,
for having me on. And you guys have a great weekend, and let's enjoy all this great college football.
We will. Sir. You made us want to. Thank you. All right, let me say something real quick. We're hoping we would have Brad Bellamy jump on today from Athens, but I know the time constraints. It's kind of 6-7 hour, 8 hour difference over there. But man, that was just incredible. We love the game, and that's what it's all about.
And what a good man.
He's a good
man.
When John David Badur comes up and tells you, and I've known John David for 31 years, I've been to over 400 of these speeches. That may be the best I've ever heard because it's from the heart.
A humble proposition. And I would support Coach Saban if he ever wanted to be commissioner of college football. I propose co-commissioners Saban and Mack Brown.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Hey, most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Let that resonate in your head. We got great people watching, great team here. All of our sponsors, Landers Ford, Hewlett and Dunn, Rumble Boxing, Lights Out Gummies. The QR codes are up here. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you Monday. Love
Boomer Sooner. Boomer Sooner.
Woo, it's going to be wild.
By the way, Gators win 28-24 in a nail biter.
I think Florida's going to give them hell. I really do.
Yeah, you watch and see.
Bounce. Yeah, everybody's counting them out. That's when you better watch out.
All right.
Pride. Okay.
Good night, John.
See you, gents.
Good night.
See y'all.
See y'all Monday.